So ever since I could walk, I've been chasing after insects with butterfly nets and flipping over rocks to find them, collecting and observing them. Back then, I thought that the insects would always be plentiful. How wrong I was. Since then, I've noticed a slow but steady decline in their populations. Less insect song on summer nights, less moths flying up to streetlights, less bugs splattered on the windshield during long car rides, less beetles under rocks, and less buzzing around my family's garden. Which has brought me to the idea that we are facing an extinction crisis. Not one of the usual examples like rhinos, polar bears, or tigers, but one of insects. Insects inspired me to be curious, and without them, what will happen to the next generation? Also, if insects disappear, what will feed our fish and our birds? What will pollinate our flowers? What about our crops? Without insects, ecosystems collapse, and with it, our way of life. For too long have we taken them just for granted. We've let our air and water be polluted for way too long and allowed our climate to change at a rate they can't keep up with, which has caused insect populations to decline by around 75% in just a little over 20 years. This is largely due to us making their habitat disappear through deforestation, using harmful pesticides, and there just being low awareness of this issue. But this is not an unfixable one. If we all take small actions, we can save our insects and our planet. My solution is pollinator gardens. These create a reliable and safe area for these insects to thrive and flourish, and helps bring back biodiversity, and it lessens their population's decline. It also, if we use native plants to build them, we increase native plant populations, which are often directly linked to the insects, because as one declines, the other one does, and thus if we bring one back, we bring the other one back, following each other, like how we did with the monarch butterfly and milkweed plants. We also need pollinator gardens to create areas free of pesticides, which have made America today 48 times more toxic than just 20 years ago. This is largely due to a chemical group called neonicotinoids, which are these harmful pesticides that are similar to nicotine in that they bind to the same receptors as it does in humans and insects, and it fatally overstimulates their bodies. This is especially bad because when we spray it on crops, which we spray it on 160 million acres per year, when we spray it on that, it accumulates in the soil and in plants year after year and month after month. And it especially becomes concentrated in pollen and flowers, which really harms the bees. It also creates big problems for things that eat insects, and as a result of that, humans, because it accumulates in the insects, things that eat it, it accumulates even more in that as it goes up. So we need to speak out against these pesticides so we can create a less toxic world. Another main problem that pollinator gardens seek to solve is habitat loss. Humanity has destroyed much of insects' native habitat, making their survival next to impossible. However, these pollinator gardens actually create habitat for insects to live, and they also inspire us to speak out against deforestation. Today, 40% of insect species are faced with extinction due to them just declining. And if it continues at this rate, then we're going to have major problems. But we also need to, rather than just addressing it today, we have to address it tomorrow and with our kids. So the way to get them aware and involved in this is to create pollinator gardens in schools. Because while ones in backyards may help now, ones in schools will inspire kids to save our future. And it directly is linked to helping out our youth know more about this through direct interaction, where they can learn about how beneficial insects are and how pollinator populations have been in decline. This creates the next generation of activists and conservationists who will fight against these pesticides and deforestation to restore our biodiversity. It also prevents the negative practices and makes us increase pollinator populations to make our environment cleaner and healthier. This has already been implemented, at least for the parts outside of schools. According to the 2020 National Gardening Survey, 1 in 4 Americans planted a plant specifically for birds, bees, or butterflies, and 1 in 7 planted a plant specifically because it was native. This is a massive improvement from the past, but however, this is not enough given the sheer amount that we deforest and use pesticides. And also, with some of these gardens, they're built with using non-native plants, which can be almost more devastating than doing nothing at all, because these outcompete natives and displace native species of insects. So we need to just overall promote native plants and native pollinator gardens through hands-on education in schools. This is especially important in this state of Pennsylvania, because here we have thousands of species of pollinators with 437 species of just bees. So we can plant for specific pollinators that are going under decline and use native plants like milkweed for monarch butterflies, or goldenrod, or coneflowers, or aster, while avoiding the invasive species, as I mentioned, such as butterfly bush, which, despite the name, how it sounds like it would be great for them, is very invasive and outcompetes our native plants. Also, our native plants that we use are often more beautiful than invasives, so there are really only benefits to using them. We also the benefits of having these gardens in schools is it allows better monitoring of insect populations, where we can have student-led clubs that help to understand where populations stand now and which plants to plant based on whichever ones are the most popular with pollinators and which ones they visit the most. I truly believe that initiatives like this will save our environment and change it for the better. And actually, for that point, my brother and I entered an entry into the National Geographic Slingshot Challenge to hopefully gain funding to kickstart a program like this, starting here at Emmaus High School. And that'll hopefully secure some funding for the program. For too long have we disregarded insects as nothing more than pests. We need to stop polluting our environment, stop using toxic pesticides, and stop destroying their native habitat. Also, there'll be none for kids like me to play with, but that'll be the least of our worries. If we get rid of insects, there won't be enough crops to feed our countries. Food chains will collapse, and animal bodies will pile up with nothing to decompose them. There won't even be flowers to put on the grave of humanity, as those will go away along with the pollinators. But this future is not certain. If we implement these gardens, we can support insect populations and increase their numbers, and reverse these negative consequences. Crop harvest will increase, food chains will be strengthened, and species will bounce back. We will create a future with more insects, and with more insects, we will create a better world for all who live here. So why not take the steps, take the initiatives to make a better future? Thank you.